A lot of times we're told to really, keep personal, personal, and keep professional, professional. But I do find that it's incredibly helpful if you can build that bond and that relationship with the people in which we're interacting. I mean, most of our industries are so relationship-based. That's why it's so important that we find and build those relationships. No one should quite know you like your banker. You should be fully honest and transparent.
Being able to work around the obstacles that you're given, whatever that looks like for the client, but also feeling comfortable enough to be able to call your banker and say, hey, I'm thinking about expanding, or I'm thinking about buying this vehicle, or I'm thinking about buying this company even. What are your thoughts? How can we work around this? What does that look like for me?
Being a second generation woman-owned business in construction, finding a bank that helping women is a large part of their mission felt like kismet.
Hello, money movers. Welcome to Her Money Moves, the podcast where we empower women to take charge of their financial futures. I'm your host, Stacy Latoyson, and today we have a very special episode featuring two incredible women. We're recording in Houston, Texas, and we are with Agility Bank. I am so excited about this episode because I'm a shareholder in Agility Bank, a women-owned MDI in Texas. That's Minority Depository Institute. And it's so incredibly impactful to have a bank who is run by women, for women. And so this episode is going to be fire because we have Marie Cano from Agility Bank. And with over 2 decades of experience in commercial banking, Marie is dedicated to supporting small and mid-sized businesses in Greater Houston. And let me tell you, Marie, we need this. We need you and your skill set so badly because we're underfunded, we are underestimated, underrepresented. There's so many barriers to capital. So the work that you do is so important for all of us to be able to thrive. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And our second guest is Kelly Kirk. She's the owner and president of Greymark Design and Build. And Kelly took over her family's business during a very challenging time, which she's going to share with us today. And it's led to new heights with resilience and determination. Today, we'll explore Kelly's entrepreneurial journey, the financial hurdles that she overcame, and how financial partnership has been pivotal to her success. So thank you both for being here. I'm just super, super excited and thrilled that you're here to share your story because so many women business owners and even aspiring business owners really need to hear this story to have a glimpse of hope and inspiration, to know where they can turn to, who they can call, Agility Bank, to be that supportive partner in growing and scaling their business.
Thanks for having us.
So Kelly, can you share with us a bit about your early career and what led you to eventually join Greymark Design and Build?
Sure. So my mother started the business when I was very young. I think I was probably 5 or 6 years old when she started the business. But her role was that I had to go out and spread my wings before I came back. So while I've always loved it, worked for her growing up on and off, cleaning job sites, sitting for inspections, doing payroll on Friday afternoons when she would pull me out of school. I knew that I wanted to try something else in the meantime. So business has always been a passion of mine. So when I went to college, I studied, my undergrad is in finance and a minor in economics, and I went back to school for my master's in accounting. So I ended up graduating and worked in public accounting for 4 years with it's like a Global 7 firm, BDO. It was a wonderful experience. Then I wanted to try finance because that's really what my passion was. So I went into wealth management for 2 years after that and realized that that's not the industry that I really wanted to be in. I really loved my mom's industry. It's always had a special place in my heart. So this is where I wanted to come back to and ended up coming back in 2018.
Wow. Well, even your background in finance, having that core and that foundation is, no wonder you've taken the business to new heights. It's so important.
Yeah, it's definitely been beneficial.
So your transition to leading Greymark came at a very unfortunate and challenging time with your mother's illness.
Yes.
And I appreciate you being vulnerable and opening up.
Sure.
Can you walk us through that period and how you were able to manage, both your personal hurdles, and professional challenges, and responsibilities at that time?
Sure. So when I came back onto Greymark, I had expressed interest with my mother in summer of 2017. And right after I had expressed interest, probably 2 months later, Hurricane Harvey hit Houston, which was a huge natural disaster that wrecked our city and was a huge challenge, especially for us in construction. It was a very big challenge because trade partners were scarce. Everyone was upset. Projects went really slowly. So it was not a good time for me to come on board at that time. But right in the aftermath of Harvey, my mom found out that the cancer that she had beat 2 years prior had returned. So that accelerated our timeline for me coming on board. Originally, I was supposed to come on board in a more happy, positive manner. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case with us, but still it got me there. So I was happy to do it. So I came on board in April of 2018. And the intent behind that was that I was going to help my mother stabilize operations while she needed to take time away to recover from cancer treatments. So while she was down at MD Anderson getting her treatments, I would be making sure that our financials were working, that the jobs were running, managing kind of the operations overall, so that if there was a question that somebody had, if she needed to be out for treatment, I could help step in and answer the questions. So that was, I guess, early, mid 2018. Spring of or I guess maybe Christmas, spring, somewhere in there of 2019, we found out my mom's cancer treatment was working. It was really exciting. My husband and I had been married for a few years at the time, so we found out we were expecting, and then a week later we found out that the treatment that we had been so hopeful about, in fact, was not working. I found out at the same exact time that my mother's treatment wasn't working as I was pregnant. It was terrifying. This was her last great treatment option. So at that point, we knew we were down to more standard treatments. She didn't qualify for any experimental trials, which was something MD Anderson is great at, but unfortunately it was not in the cards for her. So as I was taking on more and more responsibilities at Greymark and moving into a vice president kind of role, she was stepping away more. And she ended up passing on August 29th of 2019. I was probably about 28 weeks pregnant. I was due November 22nd of that year. So this was just a few months before. I actually was flying out to accept an award from Remodelers Advantage on her behalf just a few weeks later. Met with my peer roundtable group right after the fact. It was pretty crazy. I was glad that I had that group there to support me at the time. And then I ended up having my son a few weeks early. He did fine in NICU. He was in NICU for 17 days. He got discharged. I took a little bit of time off with him, but then he was able to, I ended up having a nanny that was with our family for many years, and she was wonderful. I still consider her part of the family. She would watch my son at our office space, so that way I was able to keep that bond there and still feel like I had that tether, because especially having a child in NICU can be really, really challenging. The hormones of having your first baby, as well as the grief from everything, it just made me feel like I needed to have that closeness there with me. So I was incredibly fortunate that I had this space that my mom had built also in 2017, right when Harvey hit. We poured our slab on this building. And so we have this beautiful property in First Ward, Houston, just north of downtown. And it was at the time half office space and half residence. So my son would stay on the resident side and I would be in my office. And that way, if I was going to go have lunch, I would go walk next door and have lunch with them. And it was really nice.
Kelly, you do realize you're one of the strongest, most resilient women. You are capable of anything because you have overcome so much.
Thank you.
Women need to hear and know that all the things, all the ups and downs and trials and tribulations in life, need to hear your story.
Yeah.
And that we can overcome?
I relied very heavily on my support network. I think it's incredibly important to find that group of people that will support you both personally and professionally. And I know that a lot of times we're told to really, keep personal, personal, and keep professional, professional. But I do find that it's incredibly helpful if you can build that bond and that relationship with the people in which we're interacting. I mean, most of our industries are so relationship based. That's why it's so important that we find and build those relationships. I mean, that's one of the things that Marie and I have been able to do through the years. It's really incredible.
So, one of the biggest hurdles that you faced was financing your business after your mother had passed. What were the specific financial challenges and how did you overcome them?
Sure. So as I mentioned, we had just built a building. My mother also had a line of credit, which at that time, having just built a building, our line of credit was fully withdrawn at that moment. And the minute that my mother died and our current bank had found out, or our current bank at the time had found out, they called the loan. So it became immediately due and I had to pay off the whole thing. And then for years I tried.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, for years I'd tried to get another line of credit. In construction, our payments that we receive are not at the same time as the payments that I pay. Mm-hmm. So in order for me to run a business successfully, I have to pay my trades every week, regardless of when my clients pay me. My clients oftentimes do have financing through banks, and banks sometimes delay a loan because inspectors can be late, weather, they could just be taking a while. Maybe my client is traveling and can't sign the draw form, or maybe the client just is out of the country, can't pay, needs to transfer money, withdraw, sell an asset to pay for the next part of their project. It could be a whole host of reasons why we're a little bit delayed on financing, but at the same time, I still have to continue to pay my trades. That is how I get them on the job site every day and every week, and that is how I've built good relationships with them to make sure that they prioritize me in the line of all of the other companies that they could be working with. So having that line of credit is incredibly important. Also, not to mention just the peace of mind to be able to sleep at night, knowing that if for some reason one of my clients doesn't end up paying an invoice, because sometimes our invoices can be, hundreds of thousands of dollars. That is not out of the norm. And so if a client doesn't pay, but I have to pay my trade on a Friday, knowing that I have that option there is, the peace of mind is unreal.
As a female entrepreneur, I trust Agility Bank. They're committed to helping Houston's women in minority-owned businesses thrive with the right financial solutions. Visit agility.bank or call 713-324-8810. Member FDIC.
And it's necessary, I think, especially in any sort of line of business, is having that working capital line of credit to have where if I'm not getting paid, I need to utilize this line of credit to be able to still operate. And sure. For your previous bank to call that note in the worst time possible and to not even have a conversation with you, it's absolutely heartbreaking. I'm so sorry you had to go through that.
Thanks. Well, it brought me to you, so.
I'm thankful for that.
Yeah. So tell us how did that relationship start?
So I think you were at an event. Tell that part of it.
So Sandra, my my selections manager at the time, was actually at an event. So she used to do a lot of like networking breakfasts and different like women's luncheons, different things like that for women in business in the city of Houston. It's really been cool. And so at one of the events that she did, and Sandra had heard me complain about our banker and banking relationship ad nauseum. I'm sure she was sick of me at this time, but so she was at one of these events and she got the card of Agility and said, hey, you might want to talk to them. They're primarily women owned and do a lot for women in industry. So you should talk to them. And I, of course, being a second generation woman owned business in construction, I do anything I can to help women in business. So finding a bank that helping women is a large part of their mission felt like kismet. So I immediately called. She handed it to me at a job site, got in my car, and immediately called and was like, can we meet?
Well, you did.
Please. And we met almost immediately. I mean, it was very fast.
Yeah, a
And
couple days later.
yeah, and so I remember sitting in the conference room and having a conversation with y'all, and it was really nice to feel very heard and supported and listened to. So they asked me about what I was doing currently, what I would like, and what kind of what pains were there on my current relationship, and where they could possibly come in and help solve that. And it felt so natural and comfortable, and I felt not only like this was a nice professional relationship, but just supported.
Yeah.
Which isn't something that I ever experienced before.
It's hard to have that relationship in the banking industry, I think. I think a lot of people are terrified to ask the hard questions, to ask the questions that they may feel won't be the right questions. And it's hard to be vulnerable in a situation, especially whenever you're laying your entire life out on a table and saying, here's everything, you tell me what I'm worth, essentially, on paper. And it's a hard thing to do. And we did it.
You have to be really vulnerable.
Absolutely. Very vulnerable. Yeah.
I think no one quite knows you like your bank.
No, that is very true. Yeah.
Or I guess they should. No one should quite know you like your banker. You should
Agreed.
be fully honest and transparent, because that's the person that's supposed to help you with. I think at that time, I believe I'd like laid out to you where I was currently, where I was heading, and what I envisioned for the future for myself. And I don't know that I would be where I am right now without y'all. I mean, we're looking at, I think, 50% growth year over year right now. So, which I don't know that I
Yes.
can.
That is
Thanks.
amazing.
I don't think I would be able to say that without having your help through this.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I personally was not even aware of how important the relationship is, and to build a relationship with your banker. I mean, for years, I worked corporate at Chevron, 22 years, and I would just go into the bank to make some deposits and withdrawals. I had no idea of how critical it was until I became an entrepreneur, and now I definitely see that, leaning on Agility Bank to help answer questions and inquiries and really help you to strategize and, provide different opportunities that we just don't know about, but you all, figure things out and help solve problems for us that are just like, wow, it's incredibly important.
I think as a banker, as a lender, as a commercial lender, I think that being an educator also is so valuable. So instead of just taking the financials from Kelly and just looking at the bottom number and saying, oh no, sorry, I can't help you. Instead of saying, okay, Kelly, this is where we're at. How do we get here so that we can get you that line of credit? Or how do we, what line items can we look at? And of course, her being a CPA, she completely understands what each one of those line items could be or could be adjusted to. And how can we get you to the point of, okay, let's get a line of credit in here. And so I think that was really beneficial for our relationship, is that I didn't just say, no, sorry, I can't give you that. Mm-hmm. It's, okay, let's reevaluate this. Let's look at this. What can we do here to make sure that this cash flows and that this can be a product that we can get on the table for you? Because she desperately needed it. But she was cash flowing everything out of cash for 3 years. For 3 years.
Wow. So Marie, from your perspective, what makes a successful banker and client relationship, especially with entrepreneurs like Kelly and myself?
Again, I think asking those hard questions, and I should say, finding that right person that you feel a connection with, especially as a lender and as a banker, and just being authentic, being genuine, and asking the right questions, or asking all the questions, and having everything laid out on the table, and being, this is where I am financially right now. How can you help me? How can I get to that other side of this so that I am a bankable client? And also, if you're meeting with a banker and they're telling you no, but not following it up with no right now, but let's see where we can get to maybe in 6 months. Maybe we can reevaluate your financials and we can kind of get to the other side of this. That should be the banker you're talking to. If you're talking to a banker and they're just saying no without a reason behind it, or a way to get around that obstacle, I think that maybe you should just find another banker to talk to, a financial advisor, or someone that can help guide you and educate you. And if they're not willing to do that, I would suggest.
And can you share how you and Agility Bank specifically supported, Kelly during her financial challenges?
Well, ours was a different hurdle. Ours was, I think there was a small piece, a lease out of what was going to happen.
I as usual am doing too many things at once. So when I was trying to get the line of credit, one of the things that I was doing at the time was also I was in the middle of negotiating a lease on my property. So I have two sides. As I said, there's a resident side and there's an office side. And I was in the middle of working on leasing out our office side, and we were going to take over the resident side. It took me years to get to that conclusion that was the right move, because it was a really emotional decision, not just a financial decision. And I made the decision to move my company into the resident side and to lease out the office side, which was really risky for a commercial lease at that moment. But that was the one part that I was trying to negotiate at the time and was kind of the linchpin for
So we were able to basically see an obstacle, find a way and work around it. And that's exactly what we did. Was instead of me just telling her, no, sorry, we can't do this for you. Oh, but I'm also looking at this. And I think just being honest and laying everything on the table, and we were able to make it work. Yeah.
Better than I could have expected. I was pleasantly surprised when she was like, I can do this. I remember I think I was actually at a GHBA luncheon at the time when I think you called me.
Probably.
And I was gobsmacked.
Because she'd been told no for so long.
Yes.
From her banker and her bank that she had a relationship with. And so to finally hear, okay, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
Yes, and that happens too often to women entrepreneurs specifically, that we're told no, we're rejected so many times that you almost start doubting yourself, like, am I doing the right thing? Do I just need to shut this down? Like, nobody will help me and support me. Right?
I knew that wasn't the option. I knew I was going to keep going, but I was like, there has to be somebody in this city that will actually help me and will listen. I just kept going until I found the right one, and I'm so glad that I did. But
so how has your relationship with Agility Bank and Marie specifically helped you in stabilizing and growing Greymark?
Sure. So it's allowed me to take a little bit more risk in business, calculated and managed risk, because I am still a CPA and risk averse. But no, I mean, I don't think that I would have that ability to bring on staff probably a little bit ahead of when I would have wanted to. But I knew that they were going to be able to get me to where I wanted to go. And so by having that relationship there, it's been really beneficial. Just knowing that if I need to bounce some ideas off of her, which I have, she's received a few of those phone calls.
And I love those conversations.
My harebrained ideas of, all right.
What am I going to do?
I have an idea. What do you think about this?
Yeah, let's look at it. Let's do it.
She's
let's
like,
see.
Okay, yeah, I think we can do this. Okay, we need to do it this way because that's a little crazy. But no, it's been really fun. I'm glad that we have that relationship to be able to kind of talk through some of those ideas I have. And if I'm thinking about them, because I'm not a banker, and I fully rely on her expertise in the industry. And so having her be able to tell me, okay, I see what you're doing here. You need to do this way has been really beneficial, because otherwise I'll just
go full steam ahead.
Absolutely. And probably misstep. And I don't really want to do that.
No.
Can you give us a little bit of that one-on-one, some examples of where you've been able to help solve some of these crazy ideas?
One, I think it comes to building that relationship, right? And feeling comfortable with calling your banker or calling your lender and saying, hey, I really had a client call me the other day who wanted to purchase this house in Tiki Island, but he hadn't sent me his financials yet. But he had a reliable deposit that he already had with the bank. So we were able to utilize that with using his CD, essentially his cash on hand, and being able to close on that loan the very next day. So I think it's just being able to work around the obstacles that you're given, whatever that looks like for the client, but also feeling comfortable enough to be able to call your banker and say, hey, I'm thinking about expanding, or I'm thinking about buying this vehicle, or I'm thinking about buying this company even. There's another company that's for sale and I want to buy it. What are your thoughts? How can we work around this? What does that look like for me? I think having a relationship with someone that you trust, one's going to answer your phone call whenever you call, not ghost you, and be able to answer you honestly and truthfully, hey, let's look at it this way or let's look at it that way. And I also have resources internally in the bank that I can just pick up the phone and call the president and say, hey, I'm thinking that one of my clients is thinking about financing this way. What are your thoughts? And we can sort of brainstorm and kind of get back to the client and give them a better understanding of what we can and can't do.
Well, I do have to say, as a shareholder, it definitely brings me so much confidence. Hearing stories like Kelly's and Marie's and seeing how much Agility Bank is helping to, benefit and grow companies. And I mean, if anything, when people hear the podcast, I mean, I can see your phone just ringing off the hook. I mean, they should be calling Agility because
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
Thank you.
Can you talk about the importance of networking and having that support system? You mentioned it in place for entrepreneurs specifically.
I think with entrepreneurs, especially, is like we said, we've talked about relationship this whole time, is having a relationship with somebody you can trust, having a relationship with somebody that you, whether it be a financial advisor, especially early on when you're just starting your businesses, having somebody that you feel comfortable with calling, asking those questions to, and not feeling as though no question is a dumb question. So it could be the simplest question, and it could be, oh, I know who I can call. I can call my banker. I can call my financial advisor. I can call someone, and I know that you have an incredible network of industry-specific folks that you rely on that have helped you become incredibly successful.
Yeah, I relationships and networking is incredibly important to me. It is the only reason I'm still here. My mother taught me from a very young age that having those relationships and that network is the single greatest asset that you can have. So that is something that I've really focused on my entire career. So it started when I was at BDO with you had a mentor. And so that kind of taught me how to start the mentorship process. And then through that, I had a mentor when I was in wealth management as well, and kind of developed that a little bit more. And then getting into the industry, she already was a member of 2 different organizations that have been vital for my success. And those are the Greater Houston Builders Association, and specifically the Remodelers Council within that, as well as Remodelers Advantage, which is a peer roundtable networking group. So that's an industry-specific group for both of them, one local and one throughout the country, that have given me resources of when I have a question about something, I can ask all of these people that do exactly what I do, how exactly they do it. So it's been invaluable to have that. So like I said, when in September, right after my mother passed, my mother had been the recipient of the Impact Award for Remodelers Advantage. It was a really high honor. They do at every meeting, which is twice a year, they do a vote on the most valuable person and most valuable, or not necessarily value, but could be most improved, but you vote on your MVP. And my mother had been voted MVP at her final meeting. Oh. And so she was able to go in and submit a little video of herself talking about what Remodelers Advantage had done for her and why she thought it was a really important network. And I got the call 2 days before she died and was able to tell her while she was still aware and everything, which you're not supposed to call. And the president of Remodelers Advantage was like, please don't tell anybody I did this. Of course, I've told every single person I've ever met, but it was such a beautiful thing because she saw that my mother wasn't going to make it to the meeting, didn't know how close she was to passing, and did me that really beautiful honor of letting me be able to tell my mother that she'd won this award that she really wanted to win. Aww. She's incredibly competitive. So
yeah, I read a little bit about her bio and yours, and it's like she was just racking in the awards.
She's impressive. Yeah.
She was.
I'm so sad
really,
I didn't meet her.
I used to joke that for such a small woman, she's shorter than me, and I'm 5'2.5". She for such a small woman, she had incredibly big shoes to fill. So she's always been a really large person, and she kind of paved the way for me with the GHBA and Remodelers Advantage too. But GHBA, I was able to use a lot of her connections there to kind of find my own place within that organization, and have really enjoyed my time there. And then in RA, having these people that do what I do, but genuinely love and care about me, not just as a business owner, but as a person as well. And so when I was struggling the most, especially taking over, I had no idea. I'd never run a team before. I'd never had to be in charge of my own financials. I'd never had to go out and find a banking relationship. I had no idea what I was doing in those steps. I knew a lot of the basics, but I didn't know a lot of those other things. And so having somebody I could call in those moments and would just take an hour, 2 hours out of their day. I mean, one of my peers opened his doors for days for me to just come in and see how he ran his business. Oh, wow. It was one of the most beautiful things. He and his wife took me out to dinner. It's that kind of networking that it's unlike anything else I've ever experienced. I mean, it's knowing that these are people that care about you in a way that no one else does. I mean,
yeah, and instead of looking at you as a competitor and wanting you to go down, they're trying to help uplift you and open doors for you. That's beautiful.
I would suggest industry-specific networking for whatever the industry is for that entrepreneur is seeking someone that you can trust, a group of people, an organization, whatever there might be for that industry, and just be authentic and real and transparent with them.
Yeah, you're wealthier actually when you partner and you collaborate together than if you try to be in silos and just compete.
Yeah. Well, a rising tide lifts all boats. So
there you go.
That's one of the things that I believe about even talking with locals as well. I mean, people in my industry, we have a professional women in building group as well through the GHBA, which started fairly recently. And it's very cool to be able to see, maybe they don't do exactly what I do. Maybe they're in custom building or maybe they're in production building, but being able to network with other women and help support them in the industry also is really exciting.
So me personally, because I work corporate all this time and I've been self-funding my business for the last 2 years, bootstrapping and not really knowing about, at what point should I go and apply for that line of credit or apply for that commercial loan,
At least 2 years of historical financials is really what we want to see. But at the same time, having a relationship with somebody who's not just going to say, no, you don't cash flow, this loan's not going to work for you. Or I think even knowing the different types. So having somebody that can educate you on the different types of loans that there are. I mean, a lot of business owners and a lot of successful businesses, or I've had to educate them on the difference between a term loan and a revolving line of credit. One's short-term use, one's long-term use. And so knowing or having a banker that you can trust, that you can have those conversations with, that would help educate you on what the purpose of these loans, when would you need them, how would you need them, and I mean, let's just be honest, what does cash flow even mean? What does that look like? I mean, going back to square one of your financials and how that bottom number impacts how you can cash flow this additional debt that you're willing to take on.
I would only ever get my banker's voicemail.
Really?
I
Wow.
would never actually get her on the phone.
That is shocking.
I would send an email.
That's
It would
awful.
take days to get back to me. With the PPP loan, I felt like I was trying to teach them because they were trying to say, no, you can't get the PPP loan because I got the SBA EIDL at the same time. And I was like, no. I have done all the research because as a business owner that was going through an incredibly difficult time, I was like, no, I am well versed in this. I have read everything the SBA has put out. I know that these do not compete. Like, here's a fact sheet. Here's where you can find this, and able to send everything. When I was negotiating my tenant in the lease, and there were certain provisions that were required to be in there that the bank would need to
Landlord
agree
waiver,
to.
yeah.
I mean,
You called me and asked me about the landlord waiver.
I mean, I was ready to go from a 5% to a 9.5% mortgage on my building to try to get this done because I knew that that was going to be in my best interest. I was ready to do everything I could because I was so incredibly frustrated by being told no. And it was at the point where every single time I would send something, I knew the answer was no.
Wow.
I knew it was. I knew, but I was like, I'm going to keep trying anyway because I just needed to get it done.
That's so frustrating.
And Marie said yes. Agility Bank says yes.
Yes. Not only did she say yes, but every time I would call, she was warm and friendly and, hey, how are you? It was such a different experience.
I think that personal relationship, instead of feeling like you're just another number
Yeah.
out there and you're not an actual human being who's running a business, I think is so important. I mean, you get my cell phone number. Text me, call me, send me an email. I'm responsive instead of sending you to a 1-800 number or some robot in another country.
I mean, you even told me at the time, hey, FYI, I am willing to do this for you. It doesn't look good because you're in a great rate and rates aren't what they used to be. But if you need this to be able to do what you need to do, then this is going to work for you.
And I think that I'm glad that you brought that up because I think that also brings in a valid point of that some bankers or lenders will put their clients into not a realistic product just to make $1 off of them. And instead of just being honest and saying, hey, let me do a cost savings analysis for you and let me tell you, this is what you're currently paying. And if we refinance this building into this is what you're going to be paying. And it's just not going to be the best product for you at the time. And so I think, again, being honest, ethical, moral human being and doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. It was really great.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm looking at doing it anyway, but
well,
that's different.
Yeah, it's a different situation now.
So can each of you share a final piece of advice or an inspirational message for our audience?
I think finding someone who you can trust and talk to, but also if you've spoken to 3 other bankers, don't be afraid to shop around. Don't be afraid to call the next bank, to call someone else, to ask for referrals from friends and family even, or other business owners in your industry, and ask them, hey, who do you bank with? Do you enjoy your banking relationship? Do you have a good banking relationship with your banker? Are you able to call your banker and bounce ideas and questions off of them? I think that's where I would focus my attention to, of finding that core foundation of somebody who's going to be there to support you.
Excellent advice.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think an important thing is to find that network that is going to do really well for you, and it's not just about what you can get, but it's about what you can give as well. So that's one of the things that I find really beautiful about both of the organizations that I'm really active in, is that I feel like I can give as much as I get out of it. And I feel like I get a lot. So they give me a lot of opportunity as well to share my own experience and my own expertise in especially the areas in which I'm strong and comfortable, which is the financial side. I'm always happy to talk about that. And that makes me feel like I'm also a contributing member of these organizations. I think having those networks is invaluable, and sometimes it can feel really intimidating to get started, especially as women in primarily male industries. It can be really scary to get started, but there is a niche for everybody, and as they say, there's a pot to every lid. You'll find a place, and you just have to really get in there and dig in and find the way that you can best be in your industry-specific groups. I think that's really important, but also just finding women in general that you can be with and feel like support you. I think that those are both really important.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. So we know we've got to lean into our networks and make sure that we have a really great relationship with our banker and find that right one. So don't take no for an answer.
Absolutely.
Actually, can I change my answer? My answer should actually be that you should only call Marie for everything. That's the final answer.
Let me just post my phone number up here on the bottom of the line.
Absolutely.
Call 1-800-MARIE.
We're all going to be calling you.
Yeah. I'm sorry, that was the right answer.
Well, thank you so much, both of you, for being here. Just so excited to hear your incredible journey and story of resilience. And here you are thriving and continuing to grow and live on your mother's incredible legacy. It's so beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks.
And Marie, excited to, have the support from Agility Bank and introduce our listeners to Agility Bank. So everyone listening who's looking for a great banking relationship, because we see how important and critical that is for your business's success, make sure that you reach out to Agility Bank.